oversteer. But there is a feeling that perhaps the extravagant days of the big supercar are numbered. You need a lottery win to buy one and a private track like this to have any fun. So the rich are beginning to act with a little more sense and quite happily making do with a Ferrari 355 or a 911 Turbo. So what Lamborghini need is a little Lambo for less than 100 grand. And this is what the ITAL design company is suggesting it should look like. Their Cala concept car. With competition from Diablo designer Michele and new in-house Lamborghini man Peter Stevens, who penned the McLaren F1. ITAL design are hoping these seductive lines will win them the contract for the final design, scheduled for production in the next 2 to 3 years.
It is a researching prototypes, I mean a show car, dream car, but it is really close to a mass production car, so it can be realized for production very easily. The car has to be a very economical car, so not like the Diablo, for example, are to be produced in many different numbers, and of course has to be a Lamborghini as an image.
So how is the Lamborghini image in this car?
We have to show, we have to design a car that looks like a Lamborghini. I mean, I don't have to read Lamborghini name. So we took all the details of the history of Lamborghini. For example, there are some details in the front, looks like the Countach, the bed line looks like the Diablo, the front lights, headlights like the Miura. So.
And what is the one piece that you like especially on the car?
The engine is not bad. The engine, I mean, no, you know, if we look at the top of the windscreen, we designed this strange top for two motivations. Was one for styling, to have something different, and one to give inside a lot of lights.
It's just a shame that these concept cars can't be driven.
No, as all the ITAL design prototypes, you can drive it. I got the key, you can drive it.
Give me the keys. Right. The Cala is based on the running gear of a previous prototype built in the mid-80s. It's got a 3.9-litre V10 in the back, producing 400 horsepower. But the ride and handling haven't really been sorted out yet, so there's plenty of shake and rattle and roll. But what Giugiaro has done is create this perfect driving position with the steering wheel out away from the dashboard and very much part of the driver. What I also like is the fact when I look in my rear view mirror, I can see the throttles opening and shutting. But the Cala is not really about driving, it's about style, a fashion statement for the future. And even if ITAL design don't get the final contract, it's not the end of the world.
We did the investment. We did this investment to show our mind in this kind of car. Anyway, it's been planned to be a researching prototype.
Like a catwalk model strutting the latest creation, you have to be impressed by the sheer beauty of the Cala. But whether or not this particular design ever hits the streets remains to be seen.
B.M.W, the ultimate symbol of 80s affluence. But in the 90s, their image has begun to change. Words like recycle and environment are creeping into the Sunday supplement advertising blurb. B.M.W, it seems, have seen the light and gone green.
They reckon that 80% of this 3 Series convertible is recyclable. In fact, the car's been designed very much with easy dismantling in mind. All the components have their raw materials clearly marked, so it's easy to separate plastics and rubbers when it comes to recycling, when the car eventually heads for the knacker's yard. Now that's the theory, But is it really going to happen in practice?
Well, BMW have put their money where their mouth is, investing in a joint venture with the vehicle dismantlers to create the most advanced indoor recycling operation in Europe.
It's a bit like the maternity nurse has married the undertaker. Old BMWs are received in by us and we dismantle them. And they're either crashed, they're MOT failures, or in the case of the 540 V8 that's been dismantled in the plant today, that was stolen and subsequently written off. To sum up, it's really like a production line in reverse, with the car at the beginning of the day being complete, and by the end of that day being down to a bare body shell. Glass is removed and stored, or alternatively crushed, and together with other recyclable plastics and metals is sold on to companies that specialise in this field. We're currently dismantling, I suppose, around about 600 cars a year.
The plant's designed to be as energy efficient as possible. Rails set into the floor are friction resistant, which means one gentle push and the car simply glides along to the next part of the dismantling process. They've even found a use for the oil which they drain from the dismantled cars behind me. In fact, it goes into a huge 4,000-gallon tank beneath here and is used to fuel the central heating system in the winter for the whole of the factory. So with all that attention to detail, you might assume that B.M.W are flavour of the month with the environmental lobby.
Any car manufacturer is going to be claiming to be better for the environment than his competitors. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as a green car. Building a half a ton of metal full of sophisticated machinery is bound to damage the environment, and the more that we can do to cut down on car use and car production, the better. And that goes for parts too. If we can reuse and recycle old parts in new vehicles, we can cut down on pollution and damage to the environment from the manufacturing process.
Now, you can't seriously expect car manufacturers to sign their own death warrant to make less cars. But what about reusing the parts? Well, Bolney Motors are doing their bit for the environment by selling on the serviceable parts from the cars they dismantle.
Interior trim, carpets and seats, bumpers and bodywork. Even whole engines and gearbox units are removed for careful inspection before being sold on. Oily parts like sumps and casings go to be cleaned in the biggest dishwasher in the world. After a high-pressure wash and brush up, they come out shining. Magic.
BMW owners save pounds and keep their cars on the road for longer. So if you need a headlamp assembly set for an 86 325i, well, brand new, it will cost you £125. As a used part, £55. Or maybe you need a new front grille for your 87 7 Series. If you're going to pay the full list price, we're talking £58. As a used part, £25. But there's more to it than simply providing a high-tech recycling centre and a second-hand parts business. It's a moral commitment to the environment which is soon to become compulsory and not just voluntary.
European Union legislation due for the end of 1996 looks likely to make car companies take responsibility for their end-of-life vehicles and sets a rising scale of targets for car recyclability over the next 10 years. Manufacturers who currently sell 1.9 million cars a year in the UK have all visited the plant to find out whether this state-of-the-art facility could provide a blueprint for their future.
This is the car we saw this morning. In 8 hours, it's been reduced to a pile of recyclable raw materials. All the usable parts have been cannibalised, cleaned and shelved, ready to keep other BMW owners on the road a little longer. So if you want to drive something which is a little kinder to the environment, then forget about lean burn engines, brand new diesels and electrically powered vehicles. The greener option might well be to buy an older car and keep it going with second-hand parts. I said old, I never said anything about being boring.
Now, there may be some of you labouring under the misconception that us and the Americans speak the same language. Well, we don't, do we? And to prove my point, I've enlisted the help of my colonial cousin, Charles Berry. Howdy, you all can call me Chuck. Yes, very good. Now pay attention, what's this?
Why, that's a hood.
No, that's a bonnet. A hood is something that you have on an anorak.
What in tarnation is an orac?
So what's that?
That is a trunk.
No, that is a boot. A trunk is what an elephant uses to pick up a sticky bun.
Elephant?
All right, what do you call this then?
Why, that's a fender.
No, that is a wing. This is a fender. Hit it, Jimmy.
But, like it or not, us and the Americans are about to have a whole lot more in common. For the best part of the 20th century, they've been content to sell us their software, music and films. Now, we're going to get the hardware. That means fast food with a ketchup already in it, and motors like this. But what is it?
Now this is what Chuck would call a minivan. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that is not a minivan. And you're right, I know you're right, because we had a minivan. Ex-GPO it was. My father painted it blue and put caravan windows in the side so we could see out. It's a people carrier, like a Renault Espace. Well, yes and no. Actually, a Renault Espace is like a Chrysler Voyager. It was the Americans who invented the people carrier.
Chrysler claimed to have dreamt up the minivan, big interior, small exterior, easy access and front-wheel drive, way back in 1973. But they didn't build it until 1984, when the world, i.e. America, was ready. So far, they've sold 5 million.
So if it's such a raging success, how come we haven't seen it in the UK? Well, there are a few reasons. First, the styling. The previous incarnations of the Voyager didn't resemble a motor car so much as a mobile Wurlitzer. The steering wheel's always been on the wrong side, but that's never been as big a problem as the sliding door. When the sliding door was on the wrong side, it wasn't just difficult for Chrysler to sell the Voyager in the UK, it was technically illegal. The solution is simple. 2 sliding doors. And it only took them 10 years.
Someone has decided that MPVs must have 7 seats, and so Voyager does. But 3 Steve Berries were quite enough, thank you. The seats roll in and out quickly, leaving enough space to stage the Super Bowl. I reckon that Voyager is the best looking MPV yet. Although I still think that my solution to the same transportation problem, a Ducati and 6 bus passes, looks even better. But I'm sure that MPV buyers are far less interested in the image than the engineering.
Up the front there's the option of a 2-litre petrol engine, a 2.5-litre turbo diesel, or a 3.4 or 3.8 V6. Although the Americans don't get the 2-litre and we don't get the turbo diesel. All the American cars are automatic, but we get the option of a 5-speed manual transmission. Sorry, gearbox. The instruments are all easy to read, the buttons are all easy to reach, just like in a car. The seat's comfy, just like a car. It's a quiet, undemanding, uninvolving vehicle to drive, just like most cars. The Chrysler Voyager has become the vehicle they always wanted it to be. It used to be a converted van. It's now a big car.
Will the wind ever remember?
Voyager will be with us in the spring. There are no prices as yet, but Chrysler expect to take sales from Espace and Galaxy at the 18 to 20 grand mark, which is where those two are strongest. Chuck assures me that when it gets to Britain, it'll kick ass. But I'm telling you, if anyone lays so much as a moccasin on Daisy and Dobbin, they'll have me to answer to.